Retailers and distributors publishing false and misleading information. They generally don't care. They just want to sell. It's not ready. Not ready. Not ready. Government's not ready. The government aren't ready. The industry isn't ready. I need the rest of the industry to catch up. There's no point installing heat pumps only, costing people, potentially thousands of pounds.
I'm your host, Adam Cox, and joining me today we have Rob Nezard from UK Radiators, talking about the recent government backtrack when it comes to boilers, heating, and the mission towards net zero. Rob, welcome to the show.
Morning, Adam. How you doing?
Very well indeed. So, first of all, before we get into Rishi's, let's say, backtrack when it comes to gas boilers, you've done some research about the levels of ignorance or knowledge when it comes to consumers heating their home. What did your research reveal?
Yeah, so UK Radiators conducted a survey of over 2,000 people. And it did confirm what we had suspected, which is that people generally are confused. So a few examples of that would be that only 8% of people think that a system with a weather compensation control is more efficient. Only 13% of people know how to reduce heat loss in their homes. Only 9% of people are aware how to calculate the size of radiator needed for a room. And only 7% of people understand that location in the UK has an impact on the size of radiator required. All of these things are being made significantly worse by retailers and distributors in the industry publishing false and misleading information when it comes to radiator heat outputs. Not adhering to the regulations that we have in place. And then when it comes to the government changing plans, this only further compounds the confusion and I think leads to people just switching off from all of this stuff altogether.
I'm quite surprised. You may not be surprised because you're in the industry, but I'm surprised that at a point where we've had over a year of quite high energy prices, that the level of understanding of some of the most vital ingredients like the radiators and the boilers and the heating and the right sizing is so low. Why do you think that is? Is it just people are confused by the language, or they don't know what to look for? What's the reason for this ignorance?
I just think there's so much information out there, and a lot of it is just conflicting and incorrect. It's the industry that shares this information, that publishes this information. And with such a lack of control over the regulations that are in place, it just leads to just an abundance of conflicting information being made available to the public. And so it's not really surprising that people don't understand this stuff. It's also, it's fairly technical. Most of us don't understand how our cars work, for example. We that we take it to a mechanic and the mechanic knows how it works. But when it comes to this type of information, when it comes to heating systems and radiators, it's really important that the information that's available in the market is correct and accurate, because that's being fed through the experts in the market as well. Like you trust that your installer, your plumber, your heating engineer is able to get this information correct. But if they're being given the wrong information, then that's only going to feed through to the consumer at the end of the day.
It's a bad case of Chinese whispers, isn't it, where false information gets worse and worse further down the line. You mentioned the Prime Minister's kind of pullback on the gas boiler ban. For those that don't know, what was the original intention and what's it been changed to?
Yeah, so the intention was to ban the installation of new gas boilers from 2026, and that has now been delayed to 2035. The reason for this, I'm slightly unclear on, but I do have a view on it. Before I go into that, I would just like to say that us at UK Radiators, helping the UK to achieve net zero, which is what all of this stuff kind of sits under, as this drive to net zero. And helping the UK to achieve that is a central part of our mission at UK Radiators. But the announcement to delay the ban, we do think is a good thing, even though we're still slightly unclear on exactly why the decision has been taken now. From our perspective, though, it really isn't because the ban isn't needed. It's really because the industry and the UK as a whole just simply aren't ready. The government aren't ready, and perhaps that's what they've realised. as I say, the industry isn't ready. I mean, us at UK Radiators, like we're ready, but we just need the rest of the industry to catch up.
And sometimes I think there's a lag time between good intentions. I think there was a similar kind of thought process for, banning kind of, let's say, petrol cars. And it's kind of like, well, there isn't enough infrastructure for electrical charging units and that kind of stuff. So could be the right decision, but the right decision at the wrong time is actually the wrong decision. So as long as it gets to the right place, that could be a good thing. What do you think needs to be done before the shift to heat pumps can actually take place?
Yes. So the primary thing that needs to be done, the most important thing that needs to be done, is enforcement of the regulations that we have in place in the radiator market. And this is because if we have radiators being sold with overstated heat outputs that are then installed on a system with a heat pump, you're going to have issues where the system just cannot heat people's homes sufficiently. And so until we get that right, until we start enforcing the regulations and ensuring that radiators are being sold correctly and people can trust the information when it comes to the sale of radiators, there's no point moving and shifting to banning gas boilers and installing heat pumps only, because we're going to end up in it costing people potentially thousands of pounds. I mean, as it stands, as a result of what's happening in the market at the moment, we have vast numbers of radiators being sold with overstated heat outputs. As I say, this leads to undersized radiators, which is actually a problem already for gas boilers, because it means that the systems can't operate as efficiently as they would otherwise be able to. And that ultimately results in people having higher heating bills. But yeah, as I say, when it comes to heat pumps, it really results in the system not working and people not being able to heat their homes. When people are shopping for radiators, they're shopping around, looking on various websites, checking out a few retailers, and on the face of it, it can appear that they might be saving a few pounds by buying a radiator that looks to be more powerful. However, if the heat output is overstated, that saving of a few pounds on the face of it can turn into costing the consumer thousands in heating bills in the lifetime of the radiator, or again, as I say, with heat pumps, having to replace all of those radiators because they're just not fit for purpose.
So yeah, if it's almost like a fool's economy. You might think you're saving a bit of money because the power output is enough, but if it's incorrect, you've got a radiator that's too small in many rooms in your home, and then you've got to have heating on there for longer or on a higher output setting to kind of even things out, which sounds like it's more expensive. What do you think the average person can do to reduce their heating bills or improve efficiency in their home?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's tons of things that can be done to improve the efficiency of the systems that we have in place. So like I just said, only 8% of people think that a system with a weather compensation control is more efficient. The other 92% are wrong. Installing a weather compensation control on a gas central heating system could be the single biggest thing that you could do to maximize the efficiency of the system.
A well-maintained system is more efficient. So ensuring that the system is regularly serviced, that your radiators are bled when there's air in them and when they need to be bled, and ensuring that the system is balanced. Also reducing heat loss. So I was surprised at our survey results on this question, as I thought more people would understand this. It may just be the terminology, but ultimately when we talk about reducing heat loss, all we mean is just better insulation. It doesn't have to be expensive forms of insulation either. Draft proofing, for example, can have a real significant impact on reducing heat loss in the home and therefore saving money on the heating bills. Also, when it comes to radiators, ensuring that the radiators do have a sufficient heat output for your space. And generally, we advise to oversize radiators because oversized radiators will enable your system to operate at lower temperatures, which is how we achieve greater efficiency in the system.
You mentioned before that there are some players in the industry overstating power outputs, people that think they can trust these kind of professionals in the industry, either with incorrect information or an agenda to not provide the right information. How can consumers and homeowners really protect themselves from being, let's say, misled in these kind of situations?
Yeah, so my advice on this is to always look for third-party verification. So an independent body that has verified the heat outputs of the retailer that you're buying from. Now this goes beyond like UKCA or CE marking, because there are retailers and distributors that will just stick a CE or a UKCA label on their box, and on their website they'll say that the radiators are manufactured in accordance with BSEN 442, which is the legal standard for radiators in this country. However, a lot of these retailers and distributors, they don't check these things. They don't make sure that it's actually correct. They generally don't care. They just want to sell radiators. So yeah, an independent contactable body that has verified the heat outputs of the radiator that you're looking to buy. There's a couple that we use at UK Radiators. So ETHI, who exists to verify sustainability claims. And within that, they have a product efficiency verification program. And then there's MARC, which is the Manufacturers Association for Radiators and Convectors. So if a retailer or distributor is a member of MARC, they must prove to MARC and provide test reports to show that all of the heat outputs they advertise do conform to the test reports and the tested outputs. And so any retailer or distributor that is a member of MARC, you can trust. So those bodies are then doing the work for you, to mean that you don't have to kind of dig into test reports and try to understand that yourself. However, if you're looking to buy a radiator from a retailer that isn't a member of MARC or doesn't have any third-party verification, you can ask to see a test report. And if you decide to go down that route and you decide to check test reports for the radiators you're buying, when you look at the test report, if the retailer has one and is able to provide you one, make sure that the output stated in the test report does match what it says on the website. And if it doesn't, and the retailer tries to tell you that there's some reason for this, it's not. There is no reason for it. The law is that the advertised heat output must be the heat output that is produced as a result of the test report. And then what I would say is, if there is no third-party verification and the retailer is unable to provide you with a test report, or the test report they provide you with, the heat output doesn't actually match what's on their website or in their brochure, then just avoid them altogether, because I personally don't think it's worth the risk.
And if someone's, let's say, looking to bring down their energy bills, maybe they've got a very old radiator system in their home, or they want to make it look a bit nicer, freshen it up, where can they go for more information?
Yeah, sure. So our website, ukradiators.com, we have an advice center. And so in this advice center, we have tips on how to save money on your heating bills. We have lots of information around heat pumps, all things you can imagine related to in relation to radiators, and just tons and tons of heating advice, all absolutely free advice on there. And then if you do need a radiator, or if somebody is looking for a new radiator, we have a tool called Radsizer. So what this is an advanced BTU calculator that enables you, by answering a few questions, to properly specify a radiator. So it takes into consideration your home, the space you're trying to heat, the heating system that you have in place, and it will make recommendations for suitable radiators to efficiently heat that space. And then with the rise in energy costs, we do understand that people have been hit quite hard with this over the last couple of years. And so throughout November and Black Friday, we are offering our biggest ever discounts in order to do what we can to try and help with this. So yeah, our website, ukradiators.com.
Brilliant. That is Rob Nezard there from UK Radiators. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
And to you at home, thanks for joining me on Modern Mindset in association with Share Radio. See you again soon for more.